In my ongoing series of talking to interesting estate agents, I'm joined today by Ian Story, very well known in the industry, running an estate agency in Cheshire at the upper quartile end of property. Ian is very well known for his videos and his social media, along with his wife Alex and their team, run a successful estate agency. But it's not all been plain sailing, so I'm here today to talk to Ian, to talk about his journey of estate agency, what he's learnt, where he's gone wrong, what he's done right, and what he's learned from that. Welcome today for joining us, Ian.
Hi, Chris.
Thank you very much for coming along. Right. And I always like to start my stories by going back to when you were a child. So when you were a youngster, because you were born in the early 80s, a son of Thatcher, as they would say.
I am indeed.
Did you want to be an estate agent when you were growing up?
I don't think I knew what an estate agent was when I was growing up.
Do you have a happy childhood?
Very, yeah. One of three boys, eldest of three boys.
Okay.
Parents both teachers. So I went to the school where my dad taught. Yeah, very happy childhood.
Primary school or secondary school?
Both. He taught primary, so I went through the primary. It was primary and secondary, the same school.
Okay.
So I went all the way through that school, as did my brothers. Yeah, there was a time at which my mum taught there as well. But yeah, very happy childhood.
You didn't fancy being a teacher yourself?
No, I haven't got the patience.
Okay. What did your father teach you as you were growing up? And then secondly, your mother?
Father, confidence, just to get on with things, to be polite and happy, nice to people.
Okay.
I suppose I'm not very sporty. They're all extremely sporty, so a bit of that's kind of rubbed off. But very competitive environment growing up as well, which I think has carried me through.
Okay. How about your mum?
Mum is a sort of, I don't want to use the word old-fashioned, but she's, stoical, doesn't take any nonsense. And I've definitely got that side of me as well. And then the same hard work, just to get on with things and not dwell too much.
So when you were at school, at secondary school, had you any idea what you wanted to be?
Yes, I wanted to be a landscape designer, landscape gardener.
Why is that?
Always loved it. Don't know why. My nana and my grandma had an influence on me. They both had
Is that
a
your
lot.
mum's or your dad's?
Grandma was from Derby, so not a million miles from here. That was my mum's mum, dad's mum, Nana from Blackpool, where I grew up. Both had, greenhouses, allotments, all that. Both liked the garden, so I think that rubbed off on me as well. Always wanted to be a landscape gardener from probably 10, 11 through to 16.
So you left secondary school. Did you do your A-levels?
No.
So you went straight to college to do landscape gardening.
I did.
You enjoy it?
I loved it, yeah. I did 4 years at Myerscough College in Preston. I loved it, yeah. So we started with horticulture, did landscape design, landscape gardening, all the practical side as well as the design. Really enjoyed it, yeah.
So whilst you were on the course, did you have any part-time jobs and things like that?
Yeah, I did. So I always used to work in pubs. Really enjoyed working in pubs. I definitely encourage my kids to do the same. I think it gives you a really good, social skills and understanding of how to deal with different sorts of people.
You can pull a pint then, can you?
I can pull a good pint. Yeah.
Excellent. And what else did doing part-time work whilst you were at college teach you?
Well, to stand on your own 2 feet. I've always worked since I was probably when I started my first paper round. I don't know, how old are you then? 13? Well, I've always worked in some form all the way through to now.
So how long was your course?
4 years, basically.
That's a long time for a college course.
Yeah, well, it was a year first diploma and then a 3-year national diploma.
Okay.
With a sandwich year in the middle of those 3 years working out in industry.
And where did you work in a sandwich?
I worked for Northwest Landscapes in Blackpool. So that was, looking back now in this cold weather, I remember how it was bloody freezing, real proper graft digging in the middle of January outside.
And you're not being paid for it?
Not really being paid much. You were being paid, but it was very small amount, like an apprentice type wage. So I worked for Northwest Landscapes. Adrian Allen ran that. And then I worked for JW Landscapes in Ray Green, which is near Lytham.
Is this again part of your...
Again, part of that, doing landscapes, garden maintenance, all that sort of thing.
What did you enjoy about that, having a proper job.
being out and about and not stuck in one place. I really enjoyed. And Jonathan Wildish, who I work for at JW, was a proper grafter, and he came from nothing and he earned money and bought himself nice things. I remember he had a Peugeot 205 GTI car, that he bought cash.
What colour was it?
I don't know what colour it was. Black, maybe. But people like that, I looked up to because they made it for themselves and grafted.
So at the end of the college course, what did you do then?
So I left Myerscough 4 years, so I was 20 years old. I went to university,
Still doing...
still to do landscape architecture at Leeds.
I didn't know they did such degrees.
They do. So landscape architecture is like if they do a big housing development, someone's got to plan or if they're doing a new supermarket, someone's got to plan the landscaping around the car park and that sort of thing. So I did that.
You were taking this quite seriously, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I went to university because that's what you do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people go to university to do.
Did you get pressure from your parents because they, they...
No, I didn't get pressure from my parents. They just wanted me to do whatever made me happy. But I definitely went to the sort of school where you go to university at some point, and that's just the path you take. So I went to university in Leeds. Didn't last 4 months. I'm not a studier. And that was more of an in-depth study, whereas the landscaping was more practical based, out and about.
So you prefer the practicalities to the theory and the science?
100% prefer working to studying. So I was at Leeds for 3 or 4 months. Then I changed degree course to do building surveying.
Well, that's a bit technical, mate, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. See,
That's even that. I mean, I did general practice surveying, and we looked at the building surveyor guy and said, "Bloody hell, that's a bit hard work."
Yeah. So I was still in this cycle of going to university to be able to.
You should have done general practice. It's
Well, that's hindsight.
anyone can do that, mate. It's hard work building surveying.
So I started doing it and I enjoyed it because I've always had an understanding and a love of the sort of built environment, whether it's landscapes or houses, of that sort of world. But then again, it was studying and I didn't last, so I stopped.
Still in the first year?
I started that degree course 3 times. Alex, my wife, there's a bit of a running joke that I've started 4 degree courses and haven't got a degree.
Did you start them year after year?
Yeah, consecutively.
What did your lecturers think of you?
Well, I managed to talk them into letting me restart.
So what did you do? So you gave up in the first year because you did 2 courses in the first year.
I did Leeds, quit, not for me. Then I started doing building surveying, stopped, decided to restart, and I did that process
In
twice.
Leeds again?
Preston. I came back to UCLan University in Preston, lived at home, managed to get the tutor I taught them into letting me restart again. But then eventually realised that it wasn't for me.
At the same time, doing a few pub jobs to pay your way.
Yeah, working for Blackpool Council, doing parks and grounds maintenance as well.
Were you disappointed in yourself that you tried 4 times to do a degree?
Yeah, I think I probably was at the time, but I'm very glad now that I'm not a building surveyor because of where we're sat today. But at the time I was, yeah.
When did you see the light of property in estate agency?
Well, so when I was doing my building surveying degree, I started working for a building surveying company in Blackpool.
Right.
Bentley Higgs. Really good guy called Jonathan Clayton who ran that. And I started working for him. And I didn't realise at the time, but he also had a company, a property investment company with a colleague, a friend. And they were buying up. This was sort of 2003-04, so they were buying up, as the market was on that way up. They were buying up 3-bed semis in Blackpool. I think they got to about 300 that they owned. And when I quit my degree course, I basically transitioned. So I carry on working for Jonathan, but in his property investment company. So I then started doing lettings, management, portfolio management, organising maintenance, all that sort of stuff.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I did enjoy that.
Even the technicalities of property management and Section 8 versus Section 21?
I did quite enjoy it, yeah, because it was new. It was a new thing for me at the time.
But didn't you get bored of it?
Well, I did get bored of it, yeah. I did get bored of it, which is why I moved on to...
Because you're not a letting agent, are you?
Definitely not a letting agent, Chris, as you know.
So how did you transition into estate agency then?
So I was working for Jonathan Clayton's partner, was called Paul. I was working mainly under him because he sort of ran the business. And I was a bit of a I don't know, wild child. You know, I was sort of going out.
Were you still at home?
Still at
with your
home.
Parents?
Yeah.
You hadn't met Alex at this point?
No, I didn't meet Alex for a long time after that. So this was sort of early noughties.
Yep.
So I was going out a lot in my early 20s.
So basically, it was picking up the birds,
Going
drinking
out,
beer at the weekend.
drinking beer a lot, and getting in late for the job. So, you know, pulling sickies, and just, I wasn't a particularly good employee at all at that point. So fortunately, Paul palmed me off onto his estate agent friend because he didn't want to fire me. So he found me a job working for his estate agent friend in Lytham.
And what estate agency was that called?
Lytham Estate Agents.
Right.
Dave Tinsley. David. I think he'd crucify me if I called him Dave. David Tinsley, who ran and still does run Lytham Estate Agents, and they sell the majority of upper quartile properties in Lytham. Still.
Did you feel that you'd found your
Yeah,
I
I loved it. My vocation.
What did you love in those early years at Lytham Estate
The
Agents?
hustle. I've always loved houses, nice houses. And immediately working for David, I was regularly going into lots of lovely, nice, you know, higher end properties, characterful properties, modern, all sorts of different stuff. And loved it. Loved the hustle, loved being out and about with David, going into all these different
I
houses.
mean, this was 04, 05, so the market was doing really well at
Yeah,
this
the market
time.
was fantastic. Yeah, 04, 05, 06, I was with him. Really loved it.
But then 2 years later, in 2006, how old were you at that time?
I was 25.
You started your own estate agency
I did.
with 2 years worth of experience.
I did.
It's a bit early, isn't it?
Well, I just thought I'll do it, give it a go, see what happens.
Were you a bit cocky at that time?
Yes.
Confident?
Yes.
Thought nothing. I could do this with my eyes closed.
Yeah. Thought it was easy. Definitely thought it was easy. Saw the success that David had. And yeah, thought
What
it was.
did David say to you when you handed your notice in saying, I'm going to start my own
Well,
estate agency?
well, good luck. He was very polite about it. But I started St Anne's Estate Agency, St Anne's Estates, as it was, with a lady who also worked for David. So we both left to start up in a town nearby.
Why did she want to move estate agencies?
She just wanted, the same reason as me, she wanted to do it for herself rather than someone else.
So he lost two key members of staff
Yeah,
at the same time,
he did.
and he was polite to you.
He was polite, yeah. I'm sure he was nervous and pissed off as well, but he was polite to us, yeah.
How did that start?
So we opened a shop in St Anne's. We managed to find this shop unit, and I borrowed some money off my dad. She put the equivalent amount of money in. I think it was 25 grand each, and we started it. So we had window cards, we had fancy desks, we had a smart card that was wrapped, and, you know, all the usual stuff. But no knowledge of how to grow a business or how to prospect for new business at all.
So the firm was called St Anne's Estates. What would you have done differently in the first year if you had your time again?
I would have before I started the company, I would have researched who my target market was and who I wanted to attract. We didn't do that.
So you just find a unit, let's open an estate
Open the
agency.
door. Let's go.
So you'd have worked out which quartile or market you would have wanted. You just thought, I'll open an estate agency,
Yeah.
they'll come to you.
Yeah. Jill was the lady I started it with. She was quite well connected locally. So we got good business from her connections initially as we were growing.
That lack of market segmentation, how did it affect your business?
Well, we were spray and pray. So we'll sell anything we can possibly get our hands on. And we were good because I've always had this desire to provide good service, and to, even back then, you know, trying to style rooms to make sure the towels are straight and all those sorts of things. But it led us to, we weren't really anywhere in the market. You know, we were just sort of trying to appeal to everybody. So we didn't get the higher end. We didn't really get any particular segment at all. It was just a spread.
Starting a business with a work colleague is quite a challenge. They actually say that starting business with someone is actually like getting into a marriage. What lessons did you learn from starting a business with a work colleague?
That's a good question. Well, I learnt. Well, if you put it this way, I'm now at the point where I would never have a business partner ever again for my core business. I'd happily start other avenues, but not for my main business, because someone once said to me someone who's been successful in business, that the only partnership is the only ship that doesn't sail, or something like that. But it can go quite wrong quite quickly if you're not aligned. She was quite a lot older than me, for example.
Right.
So I think we had different priorities.
What would you say to someone? I know you say don't start with someone else, but let's just say, whether it's finance or whatever reason, you have to start with a work colleague. What advice would you give to someone now?
To write down, to be crystal clear on what you're going to both contribute to the relationship, whether that's time or money or resources. I would be crystal clear as to how that's going to work from the start, to what each other can expect.
Did you not do that? Did you just say, come on, let's go?
Well, we'd always got on so well at the employment where we worked, that I think we just thought we would still get on so well. But
did it change the relationship from?
Yeah, it changed the relationship considerably. Yeah, because, well, for obvious reasons.
2 years later, you guys parted company.
Yeah, so we did part company because, well, the business nearly failed, first of all.
So that's going to create stress.
Which creates stress, yeah, when the money runs out or is running out. I had an opportunity to start another business around that time, which I thought would be more successful than where I was at St Anne's.
What opportunity was that?
It was an opportunity to start another estate agents with another business partner in the same area, but slightly different postcode.
But you jumping from the pan to the fire, right?
Well, I was, but I was naive and young. And
did you think it's not? Oh, I've had my fingers burnt or whatever.
Well, I think I was just very naive, and not very mature in my decision making.
What was it like starting a new estate agency in what was, quite frankly, the global financial crash, which was not particularly good?
Well, we'd started doing lettings just before that point, so it was actually okay because we actually grew our lettings book really quickly.
Okay.
So that gave us income. Within 6 to 12 months, we had a very good income off the lettings.
So you left St Anne's and you went with a new business partner with a new estate agency, which was called
County.
Right. Okay. And talk to me about the relationship you had with the new director.
So she came along. We'd also gone to school together, although we didn't really know each other that well at school. But we got on really very well from the start.
Okay.
We got on very well all the way through that business, really. She came along with some money.
Yep.
So that obviously St Anne's was failing. Emma came along with some money, which propped us up and kept us going, and then we grew from there.
Did you learn by your mistakes from St Anne's with the relationship you had with Emma?
Yes, to a degree. We had a better working relationship. We were similar age, which helped. So a similar stage in our lives.
What was her motivation of starting the estate agency?
Independence, freedom to do her own thing.
Okay, so
I think also the money's quite good. It's probably a motivation.
So you had County between 2008 and 2013.
And that's still going now, is County.
Okay. You left County?
So
did she buy you out or something?
She did eventually, yes. Prior to that, I'd started another estate agency.
Why?
Because, well, I started it with
Top
Alex.
Trump's estate agency.
I know. So I started it with Alex.
Who's your wife?
Who is my wife? Yeah.
Was she your partner, life partner at that time?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
How did you balance the books?
Well, initially it was fairly straightforward because iMove was a different geographical area to County, still on the Fylde coast, but non-competing areas completely. And I agreed with Emma that I would work part-time in the estate agency and take an appropriate wage for that, less than her, and started iMove. And I started iMove, just to get back to your question of why, because I thought at that point that the whole industry would be cheap, low fees, fixed fees
Yes.
forever.
So 2013, Purple Bricks was about to open its doors. It had just opened its doors, but it was 14 when it really got going. And I know everyone was a bit worried about. So you thought to yourself you'd cover your bets by having both the county brand, which is more traditional, and you'd go with the
Yes.
cheapest chips.
Yes. So that's what we did. So we started iMove in 2013,
13.
I think. And it went well at the start, because all comes back to me and having this passion for good customer service and good marketing. So we did all that side of it. It was a shiny new brand. I started using Facebook a lot when no one was using Facebook. And we did lettings out as well. And that grew well. We had a great year, great 18 months.
How was the relationship with Emma at County going whilst you were running this cheapest chips agency with your now wife?
Well, initially it went okay, and then it went not okay.
Without delving too much into personal details, do you think in hindsight running two businesses with basically two different people was the right thing to do?
No, it was the wrong thing to do. What I should have done, looking back, is exit County and start my own thing. That's what I should have done.
Because you left County in 15, didn't you?
I did.
And you were still doing iMove.
Yes.
How did you feel about working in a lower quartile brand, offering great service but not necessarily great fees?
Well, I knew no different at the time, because I was firmly of the impression that that's the way the whole industry was going.
Okay.
That you wouldn't be able to charge 2%, 1.5, 2%, because there will be too many options for the general public to sell their house for 999 or whatever it was that we were charging.
But surely it was grinding your gears that you were putting all this hard work in and not getting much anything back in return.
It did, after a while, that did happen, yes. So I was constantly trying to push the fees up, but we had this fixed fee set up, so I was trying to increase those fixed fees, which I did to a degree. Came on your video course, that's probably around that time, Chris, 8 years ago, something like that. And then met Perry at that time and did one of Perry's first, I think his first ever boot camp, and started to charge more then. So at that point, I started charging 1.25% plus VAT.
Through the iMove brand.
Through iMove. And I managed it, me going out doing it, I managed it. But then when we had to bring in people to work for us, I think the correlation of cheap looking brand and 1.25, which then 1.25 was, if you get 1.25 in Blackpool, you were doing extremely well. And a member of the team trying to line up cheap brand at 1.25 didn't work, which is fair enough.
Just come back to Alex. How did you guys meet and why did she want to become an estate agent?
I'm not sure if she did. We met in Manchester in 2011, May 2011, double date. Friends sort of joined us together. And we lived in Manchester. I lived in Manchester at that point. So I was commuting back to the Fylde Coast. And we then got together, moved in together, decided to move back to the Fylde Coast, or I did, because I had a business there. Alex was a solicitor. So she used to work from home a bit and then get the train into Manchester. And then we got married and had Martha.
And she joined you with iMove.
She did, because it really worked well for us, because we can, like a lot of husband and wife teams, you have flexibility for childcare.
Why did you then decide to move to Cheshire?
So iMove, we had a brilliant 18 months at iMove. I think it was 2018, 2019, or 2017, 2018. We had a really good 18 months of revenue. But that was mainly when it was just me and Alex and Brittany, who used to work for us, who was very good. And then it was really my decision to move to Cheshire. It wasn't Alex's. A lot of people assume it's Al because that's where she's from, but it was me who wanted to move.
Does she still have her parents there then?
She does. Her parents, her mum and stepdad, live there.
again, I see it all the time. You tend to move the family, especially with childcare. It works a lot easier if you can move nearer the wife's parents. I see it all the time, and I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's great, and it helps the kids.
But it isn't just that, because we actually moved away from my parents by moving to Cheshire. We moved away from my parents, who are amazing at childcare. So we actually moved away from that.
But then the relationship, and I'm making sweeping statements here, but the relationships that daughters have with their parents is a different relationship that sons have with their...
It is, and both of Alex's sisters live near us too. So it was great. Her whole family are there in Cheshire, basically.
I bet your mum and dad were a bit disappointed, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, yeah. But my brother, well, both my brothers now live abroad. My younger brother, Neil, then lived and still does live in Valencia in Spain. My parents were both retired teachers, so they were going to Spain quite a lot to see him. So they were away for quite a bit anyway.
Okay.
And we're only 60 miles down the road from Blackpool. So we moved to Cheshire because I wanted to move. And obviously, it didn't escape me that the housing stock around there is much nicer than where I came from.
Northwich, it's where all the footballers live, isn't it?
Well, no, the footballers are further over towards Macclesfield, Wilmslow, Alderley Edge. We are mid-Cheshire, so we're right in the middle. We're sort of south of Warrington.
Yes.
So we live in a little village near Northwich, but the villages around Northwich are lovely. Very nice housing stock.
You started a brand new estate agency.
Brand new.
So did you sell iMove then?
Well, yeah, we actually sold. So iMove had sales and lettings. The lettings, they were two different limited companies. The lettings company I sold to a mate of mine who still runs it now very successfully. He bought it completely, bought the book and runs it now. And he's since bought up other letting agencies. He's still going as iMove in Polton-le-Field, which is near Blackpool.
It's a posh bit, isn't it?
Posh bit. And the sales side, we got screwed over on, really, Chris, because we passed it on to a company who was supposed to pay us a percentage per sale when they sold, and they folded, and so we got nothing from the sell side at all. But we got a reasonable amount for the lettings.
So you started a brand new estate agency called, no shit, Story Estates. Is it Story Estates?
It's Stories now.
Stories. It was Stories Estates.
It was, yeah.
Okay, what's the word, eh? Okay. From what you'd learnt in the past, opening up two estate agents, what did you do differently this time?
So I started Stories Estates as it was. Basically, the way it started was we were asked, so Alex's parents, Alex's mum and stepdad, were selling their family home in a lovely little village. Okay. Bill, her stepdad, said to me, will you do it for me? Will you sell it for me? Under iMove. Because that's all we had at the time. So, of course, you say yes, don't you, to help out your in-laws. So we marketed their house in this lovely Cheshire village under our cheapest chips Blackpool company initially. Throughout the course of that sale, I was doing viewings with people who had a £1 million house around the corner with an equestrian unit and a 1.5 million. And I was thinking, what am I doing? I should be here.
You hadn't
doing
thought
this.
at the time
Hadn't
that you wanted to
about it
the
at
move
that
yet?
point. No, I was commuting back to Blackpool 2 days a week.
Okay.
Had a team in iMove. And it became clear that I should be doing it in Cheshire.
Did you enjoy doing that type of property
Loved
in
it.
Cheshire?
I've always loved the nicer houses. And it was at that point that we thought, let's start Stories. So within the time frame of that sale going through...
Was iMove still on the market at this point?
Yes.
It was on the market, but...
Do you mean iMove the business?
Yes.
No, because I'd sold that to my mate. It didn't go on the market.
Right. But what was your plan to go to Cheshire for?
Just for a change of lifestyle.
Yeah, what about a job? Or was
iMove had staff in, and I was commuting 2 days a week.
Oh, right. Okay, so you hadn't agreed to sell it to your mate at this point.
It was around that sort of time. Yeah. But when we moved to Cheshire, I hadn't agreed to sell iMove.
Right. The plan was to keep iMove at arm's length.
Yeah.
Work 2 days a week there.
Yeah.
And just enjoy life.
Yeah.
Near Alex's parents.
Yeah.
And sisters.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
But when you realised by selling your stepfather's and mother-in-law's house, that you decided, actually, why don't I start my own bloody estate agency? Put iMove on the market.
Yeah.
No, you didn't put it on. You sold it to your mate and you started Story Estates, which now is Stories.
Yeah. So we had Alex's parents' house on the market with iMove.
Yes.
And throughout the sale time, 10 weeks, we set up stories, got the branding going, got a Rightmove account, got a website, and launched her parents' house on Rightmove with stories as under offer. So that got me local buyers under stories. So it got me my first couple of vals in the area. And as well as that, Chris, to expand, I had what Perry had taught me as well. And Chris Kiriakou, I always think of Chris when I think of fees, because he said to me, you might as well charge 2% rather than 1.25 because it shows you different, and it asks them a question, it gets the owner to ask why you're so much more expensive. So Chris and Perry. So we started stories with Perry, with the knowledge that Perry had given me.
What did Perry actually teach you? And I want you to encapsulate it in as few words as possible.
He gave me the mindset to know what I'm worth and charge more accordingly, and structure. A new side that I'd never seen to a estate agency before, because I had never worked in corporate. So a lot of people have been trained by the corporates. I've never had that training of any sort at all. Never been trained at all. I've just given it a go. But Perry gave me structure and mindset, belief. So from the start of stories, we were selective as to what we sold. So we turned away loads at the bottom end in the early days.
Interesting that you said turn away an awful lot, and you said about 10 minutes ago that when you started St Anne's, you didn't market segment yourself.
No.
Do you think that was fundamental to stories being what an important key, that you were focusing on just one type of market, which in your case was upper quartile?
Categorically, it wasn't quite upper quartile. It was sort of 500 and up.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, it was key. But I had the income from iMove to allow me to not need to make any money out of stories at the start. Didn't need to make any money from stories.
What else did you learn from your other businesses that made stories a success? You've mentioned Perry Power, you mentioned Chris Kiriakou, charging a different fee, focusing on a particular segment of the market. What else?
Not needing a shop. So we ran iMove from a little office that you wouldn't know where it was. So I think that also has been critical to our success has been not having a shop front, because it ties you to a geographical location. Where we operate in particular, we're a string of villages. So if I was in the middle of a town and I wanted to dominate that town, I probably would have a shop. But for us, wanting to cover a wider area of nice, affluent villages, I didn't want a shop in any one of those villages because it would tie me to that area.
And preclude you from getting stuff in another village.
Yeah. So not having a shop was key. And then I think that's probably all really, being selective, charging what you're worth, being amazing at the marketing and not being tied to an area.
Interesting you say you've got good at marketing. It's obvious that you have influences from Sam Ashdown. What has Sam and Phil done with you and your marketing?
So I would have come on to talk about Sam, because I didn't really meet Sam until COVID year, 2020. So I've always had an eye for marketing house as well, how to stage the room, where to put the camera, all those sorts of things. From stories, at stories from the start, we've only ever used a pro photographer, and we've done a video for every single house.
We'll come on to talk about your use of video in a second.
So that was key to the growth. And then in 2020, Sam, obviously during COVID, we were all twiddling our thumbs to some degree, weren't we, sat at home? And Sam and Phil started pumping out content around their Firewave product, and that got me interested. And then I've learned a lot from them in terms of going even deeper on the styling and the staging of each rooms, bespoke brochures, twilight photography, all those sorts of things that we've added on since in the last 3 years.
Being an estate agent and subscribing to the Firewave package that Sam and Phil offer, it's not cheap. Is it worth the money?
Well, there's been different levels of package. So initially it was Firewave, which was the blogs and the letters that they send out.
Which are very good, by the way.
Oh, they're very good, yeah. We've got into some amazing houses because of those letters. And then Ignite, I might be slightly wrong here, but I'm sure Ignite was a digital side. So tip graphics for social and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that wasn't I mean, it wasn't ridiculously expensive, a few £100 a month.
Yep.
I felt it was quite good value for what you got. They've then changed recently because they're doing the mastermind, which is a different thing.
That's into the four figures.
Yes.
Is that worth it?
I think it has been worth it for me, yes, because we've had a coach, a monthly coach, and the coach for the top level of the mastermind, which is the one that we joined, was Sarah Edmondson. I think Sarah's brilliant.
Exceptional.
Yeah, she's really good. Plus, she used to work for Fine & Country, so she's upper quartile. She knows a lot about that. She used to work in Tarpley, which is one of the areas we want to grow in this year. So I think it has been worth it. Yeah, Sarah's been very, very good. And the content that you get from AJ, I think the way they structure their business, and because we're trying to target the higher end, has been very good for us.
So you'd thoroughly recommend it?
I would recommend it, yeah. But there's different levels, so pick your level, because there's 3.
Boys and girls, I've got quite a few clients that use them, especially those in the upper quartile, and do check them out. I do rate them. But again, like most things, you have to apply their teachings. I know there's plenty of people out there who, not only just with them, but with others, pay for the teachings, but don't actually apply them.
No, you've got to implement. It's the same with anything.
I'd like to talk to you about video in your estate agency marketing.
Good.
Well, your property tour videos, if you don't mind me saying, are in the top 3 of UK estate agency.
Thank you.
How did you initially get over the fear of appearing in them?
I don't think I ever had any fear, Chris.
Right.
Which I don't want to sound like a
No.
wanker, but I don't think I've ever really had any fear. So at school, I would happily have, and I did, stand up on stage and sing, nursery rhymes in school as part of the play. But I never really had much fear doing that, which helped. What was instrumental was your course with the lads that I did 8 years ago. And I realised you're not here fishing for compliments.
Well, we hardly do that course.
Well, there you go. But that was instrumental, and it was that really opened my eyes up to video and to the power of video. And of course, that was way before we started doing video tours, because we didn't start doing video tours till 2019. I came on your course 2015.
It's interesting, though. You started off earlier using what we call the digital mayor technique.
Yes.
Where digital means online, mayor, local important person with chain round neck, where you were interviewing people. And if you don't mind me saying, you were pretty good at it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
But if you don't mind me saying, although recently I know you've changed, kind of lost the track on that one. Why is that?
So we did the Cheshire TV show with you guys and the lads, and it was fantastic. That was at the point when the business was very, very young. We had the income from iMove, so I didn't need to be, stories didn't need to bring me an income. So it grew very slowly at the start because I was selective and turning these properties away. So I had time to devote 2 full days a week to coming here to do the studio stuff and to do on on-site stuff up in Cheshire. And that went very well. And then we got busy.
Classic.
So we stopped doing it. And I've been busy, as most agents have, up until sort of last October.
A lot of people...
However, just to interrupt, Chris, in COVID year, I did, and it was Sam Ashdown who gave me the idea. In COVID, I did lowdown videos on Facebook every day. So for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was, in the first lockdown of COVID, I did a Facebook interview with a local business every day. I think I did 60 interviews, and that was the best thing I ever did. When the market opened up again in May, we just went through the roof because everyone knew me. Everyone knew who we were in the local area.
Okay.
And then we stopped doing it again because we got busy.
Because that's the challenge, is doing video with this sort of content is it's actually getting it started and getting over your fear, but then the other one is, and I've seen a number of agents fall foul of this one, they get busy and the first thing that gets dropped is the video.
Yes.
Problem is that you wait, it drops and you start doing them again, but
it takes ages to get back up, of course.
I know we're filming this in early 23. What has changed in your business that allows you to start doing these things again? And what are you going to do to ensure that you keep going with this?
So what's allowed me to do it is that for the first time ever in being self-employed, I've now got the right team in stories and the right structure to the team. which is just very, very literally in the last month, it's freed me up.
That's a real challenge, is getting the right team. What have you learnt, and what can you share with the boys and girls out there in estate agency land?
I'm sure part of the reason we've got such a good team is just because we've been fortunate that the right people have walked in the door.
Yes.
But there's an element of that. But also, since we started Stories locally to where we cover, we've created a real sort of nice buzz and feeling on social media of our company.
Following a tribe.
A following, and I think people respect what we do and like us, and that's helped us to attract.
So
people.
almost that the content you're chucking out as self-selected people to come and say, I'd love to work for
I
you,
think so, yeah.
which is almost a Bertie bonus, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And that's not why I did it, but it has done that. We've employed 2 people now whose houses we've sold. We sold our house and they've come to work for us. Vicky is full-time. We sold our house. The first member of the team who we recruited was Aidan, who has been fantastic. He's such a good work ethic, very, very organised. But the structure of our team, I think, is quite different to a lot of other estate agents.
What does that structure look like?
So we don't have negs. We don't have negs and valuers, and we do, but they're not called negs and valuers. So the structure of the team is Aidan is operations manager.
What does he do?
So Aidan takes care of all the initial client setup. So we get instructed on a house today. Aidan then takes over. So Aidan will send out terms, do all the AML checks, book in the photos, the brochure, the copyright of the video, arrange all the appointments with the client.
Because you're shit at admin, aren't you?
Because I'm awful at admin. So Aidan takes care of basically all of that. Up until recently, Aidan has also been doing the property styling, because he's got an eye, he's just got an actual eye for styling of property. So he's been doing that. Now Vicky does most of that. So Aidan runs the operation side. So as well as that, Aidan also runs any projects that we have ongoing, such as we've recently launched a new website, sales brochures. We're looking at doing more, or we've just started a podcast, Digital Mayor. So Aidan does most things operationally.
What's going to, I know you're not launching it for a couple of months, but what's the podcast going to be called? So people can follow
The Northwich podcast and the Tarpley podcast.
Top tip there for you, boys and girls. Name it after the town you're in, not the name of your agency.
I do listen to you, Chris.
Fantastic.
So Aidan operations, and I'm going to involve Aidan more now going forward in the financial management of the company as well.
Okay.
Phil was on our next member of the team, and Phil came in. Basically, Phil's role was a neg, okay? But I don't want to pay people for individual sales, because I think pay people commission for individual sales, because I think it creates the wrong result for the client. So Phil's role is, I've taught Phil how to negotiate as well, but Phil has a real passion for getting every last cent for the client, not just flogging the house. And then very recently, Phil has also grown into listing. Phil is doing listing now, everything under 900 grand, and he's going out getting 2%, and he's 26. Was he 27? Young lad, really good.
Must be chuffed with that.
So chuffed with that, yeah, I'm so proud of him.
Okay.
I couldn't run it without Aidan. Those two are key.
Yep.
Then Vicky joined us, so Vicky's house we sold, and Vicky is, I think I want to rebrand her to Chief Happiness Officer, because Vicky is amazing with people. So she will, within the first 3 minutes of a phone call, she'll know where they went on holiday, what the dog's called, how old the kids are, where they went to school, all those sorts of things. Vicky goes out hand delivering our pre-listing packs. So we hand deliver one every valuation. She goes, knocks on the door, says hello. She gets invited in for coffees. She's really good in the office with the team at sort of keeping everyone's spirits up, and she's really good as Vic.
Okay.
So that side of it has allowed me to be a bit more free in the last few weeks, because they're all doing their job really well.
Because you're obviously good at doing that digital mayor, talking to people, building relationships. You just never had the time.
No.
Did you fear losing control of the business by giving all this away?
Yeah, massively, yeah. I could have done what we're doing now much earlier.
Was the problem you and not letting go?
Yeah. I'm the blocker to the growth. I have been up until now.
So when did the penny drop that you had to let go?
It's dropped gradually over the course of the last 6 months.
How? What was
Well,
it?
because the team was doing so well in their roles,
Okay.
it's made me realise that I can.
Do you think in hindsight you should have realised this yourself and action this years ago?
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
And what advice would you give to people watching or listening to this on how to let them go, to let go of the reins and give
I think looking back, what I would probably just say is that you've just got to do it, because you can't grow without having the team in place.
But surely they're not going to do the job as well as you, are they?
No, well, I was speaking to Phil Jones about this recently, and he was saying to me that obviously they're growing AJ up there, and that it's unlikely that your team are going to get the same conversion rate as you, that they're going to work as hard as you, that they're going to be up at 5 a.m. on a Sunday. That's probably not going to happen. But to grow, you've no other way of doing it. You've got to have people going out doing what you're doing. It's just having the right people. Something else I've learned recently is we hired a girl back end of last year. She was absolutely lovely, really lovely kid. She was 20 years old. She definitely had the potential to be a really good neg in a traditional sort of estate agency. But I let her go in December because I didn't feel she fitted what we were looking for. And I think it's things like that I've learnt is to, if you've not got the right bums on the right seats, you need to stop it as quick as you can.
So that's a big lesson to learn is if you haven't got the right person in the right hole,
Yeah.
then move them on.
Then
Don't
move
wait.
them on as quick as you can during the probation while it's straightforward. And it's fair to them as well. I've carried too many people in the past.
So hire fast and
fire fast, yeah.
Faster.
And and faster. And don't carry average people. I've done that too much in the past. Not that I'm saying this girl was average, because I think she she'd probably be really good. But if they're not the right fit for your culture, I think you need to move on.
What does Alex bring to the party, your wife, to you and the business?
Detail. She's got an amazing memory, and she's very kind.
She's lovely, isn't she?
She is.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it without her because we have 2 children.
We're in early 2023. You've committed to doing a podcast and doing more local marketing, which you know works. What else are you committing to? I mean, we're about to probably enter a tough market. Mm-hmm. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, because yes and no is the honest answer.
Okay.
So yes, because when we started Stories, very end of 2018, early 2019, we shone because we were better than the competition. So we were better at communication, we were better at marketing, we were better at negotiating. So we shone. And I think we will shine again now going into a harder market, because agents will, batten down the hatches. We all know what happens in a harder market. They'll go quieter, we'll go louder. So yes, I'm looking forward to it because of that. I think any agent would lie if they said they weren't going to miss the last 2.5 years to some degree, because it's been so amazing, hasn't it?
And what are you going to do to not fall into the trap that many agents do if it is a tough market, of basically pulling everything in?
So, what I'm going to do is what I'm doing now. So I've got the team now. So having the team was key, because I now feel like I can spend more time on the growth rather than on the maintenance of the company. We're recruiting. Next week we have a full-time creative lady starting to work for us. So she's going to be nothing to do with the agency. She's only on creative. So she'll be doing our brochures, our social, anything we do that's creative. She'll be doing video, behind the scenes on photo shoots, all that sort of stuff. And we're probably going to recruit someone else full-time as well. So what I'm getting at is we're going to try and grow the team, we are going to grow the team even in a market that's going to contract. So we have a very good profit margin. So I'm comfortable that that profit margin will probably shrink a bit this year, maybe next year, while we're in the growth phase.
And where do you see Stories wanting to be in the market in the next 3 or 4 years?
So the next area we want to take market share in is Tarporley. So we're now so we've only been going for 3 years, but we have market share for properties above $500,000 in the Northwich postcodes. And I want to do the same in Tarporley next. And then the next is going to be South Warrington, which is a lovely belt of villages there. And then we'll see. I don't want to grow huge.
If you had your time again, what would you do differently?
I would get trained properly from the start, or try and work for a company who trained you in how to do the job.
Have you had any regrets so far?
I think the answer has to be no, because I might not be sat here today. And I've learned an awful lot by giving it a go and doing it wrong. Gary Vaynerchuk says that, doesn't he? You can't have a regret, because if I'd have made a different decision, I may have been run over by a bus that afternoon.
Ian Storey, thank you for your insightful story today.
Thanks, Chris.
And I wish you well in the future.
Thank you, mate. You too.
Thank you.